The RotoGrinders Daily Fantasy Football Podcast is presented to you by Yahoo Sports Daily Fantasy. You got to check them out week one. They are running a $1 million prize pool that is rake-free. No management costs whatsoever. And even best part about it, $25 entry, only 10 entry max, and a great payout structure. It is the best GPP week one. You need to check it out for yourself. It's Yahoo Sports Daily Fantasy.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another season of the DFS OGs podcast right here on RotoGrinders.com. Season 3 for us, guys. Glad to be back. Football right around the corner. We're here each and every week breaking down the main slate for you. We'll leave all the side games alone, the Thursdays, the Mondays. Plenty of great content over at RotoGrinders covering you there, including Chop and Big T's video. Notorious will have you covered. So let me bring in my co-host here. I, of course, Chris Beermakersfan Prince, joined as always by my fellow OGs, about 30 years of DFS experience for you right here in one podcast. So HeadChopper, Notorious. Chop, we'll start with you, buddy. Been a long time. How we doing, my friend? We're looking forward to football. Obviously, how's things going?
Oh, things are going good. I'm just, I finally had the epiphany last year, and so this year I followed through on it that baseball is just not for me anymore. So I play sparingly. So my summers are actually a lot more relaxed now. And, but I'm always anxious to play a little. There's nothing better than football. I don't care what sport you love. If you love DFS, man, football, there's nothing better than sitting down there on noon on Sunday when that thing kicks off and your lineups are locked and you've got like 7 hours of red zone. It's just, you can't beat that, man. There's just nothing like it.
See, Chop's got Redbox on the brain. He is our resident movie expert. So if you need a movie review, you hit up Chop. But
correct.
Yeah, man, football, I mean, nothing like it. Like you said, you get fired up Sunday all day. We've had a little college football, so wet the whistle a little bit. Let me bring in our other co-host here, my dog, Notorious. What's up, buddy?
Yeah, doing good. I'm excited for another season, and I'm pumped that we have the same crew as always. I'm excited for Chop's rants and, some of the awesome picks that you're going to provide us with, Beer. So, yeah, I'm pumped. I don't watch a whole lot of college football, so I'm definitely ready to get this NFL season rolling.
Yep, can't get here soon enough. So we are here again. We'll cover all the games on the main slate, talk about all the plays we think are viable. So, guys, let's get right into things here. Let's start with Rams and Panthers here. Very intriguing game, Chop. We're going to start with you, but I think the biggest questions here, there's a big question on each side, and there's probably a lot of questions going into week one. But Cam Newton, is he healthy? Do you believe? Are you believing in this offense? A lot of hype around a guy like Curtis Samuel, DJ Moore. We know what Christian McCaffrey is. Greg Olsen back. This offense could be electric. On the Rams side of things, obviously, the big question, Todd Gurley. Are you going anywhere near this week? How are you handling Todd Gurley and the rest of the Rams? But give us your overall thoughts here, Rams and Panthers here to start us off, Chop.
Yeah, I love this game in general. I'm always a Cam Newton fantasy fan just because we've seen it from day one. Like, he can get you through the air, but the thing on the ground is what sets him over the other guys, a lot of the other guys. So I've always loved Cam Newton. McCaffrey, he's established himself now as one of the top 3 or 4 guys out there. On a PPR especially, you can make a case for him being number 1 in a point per reception league. The only thing I hesitate, we're getting like full price to McCaffrey every week. We're going to get it. I know he's great. I don't know. I don't think he can take a step up from last year. I think the only place he can go is down. But with that being said, he's still elite. So you got to be on McCaffrey. And the name I've heard also, I've actually heard both these guys all summer long. One group says Curtis Samuel looks so great. And, they throw out all these stats about Curtis Samuel and when he's been healthy with Cam Newton. And then the other half of the guys go, man, did you see DJ Moore last year? Here's these stats on DJ Moore. So one of these guys should be really good. I really think one of them is going to explode. And, but somebody's going to be disappointed because they both can't have like career years, I don't think. I'm leaning more right now towards DJ Moore because from what I saw from him last year, the upside, I'm an upside guy. DJ Moore looks like he has some massive upside. he's going to have some terrible games where those rosters are going to be dead, but he's going to have some games that win you GPP. So I'm a DJ Moore guy. And on the flip side, Gurley, that's the guy. Everybody was running scared in the best balls this year, right? You know all about that. Everybody was running scared from Gurley.
Oh, yeah.
And I think they're going to run scared from him in week 1 because that's the mindset right now. I don't mind him at all. He's had a whole off season to rest. I'm sure he's never going to be the same guy. He's always going to have some issues with his knee, but while he's healthy, I want to ride the guy. I see no reason why he can't sneak in on some weeks and grab you 2 or even 3 touchdowns. This could be that week. He's fully rested and healthy. So once we get kicked off later in the year, like, I'm not going to want to play Gurley once he starts to get a little wear and tear on him, but now's the time to play him if ever. So I'm definitely in on Gurley, thinking there's nobody out there with more of a chance at multiple touchdowns than Todd Gurley.
Right, and you're getting a little bit of a discount. I mean, he's $900 cheaper than McCaffrey on DraftKings, so I agree with you. If you're going to play him, let's get out of the way right now. You know, he's healthy, and you get him cheap, and you get everybody that's scared to play him. Chop, quick thoughts on the passing game. Any interest in Goff? Obviously, we know Cooks, Woods, Kupp. It could be frustrating week in, week out. You touching that, or are you staying away from that this week?
I mean, I like the passing game. I think Jared Goff is going to have a good year. So I don't mind it, but the problem is, like you just said, who am I going to pair him with? When I'm building a tournament lineup and on RotoGrinders with our new lineup HQ, it's even easier to stack than it was before, but I've always stacked. So the problem is when you set your settings and you say, okay, I want a wide receiver to be paired with my quarterback. Whoever my quarterback is, give me one wide receiver. I mean, you're taking it's a real risk. He's got 3 legit guys. Plus, I've heard some good things out of the tight end position from the Rams too. So maybe that's 4 legit guys that he could go to. Man, it's just such a toss-up. I do like the passing game. It's just narrowing down those pass catchers in your stack is the tough part.
Yeah, I agree. I like Goff in the spot, but I like to pair my guys as well. So you might take a wait-and-see approach there, kind of see if Cooper Kupp's back to himself, but a lot of questions there in the Rams passing game as well. Derek, thoughts here? Cam Newton, Todd Gurley, the DJ Moore, Curtis Samuel debate, and then the Rams receivers. So a lot in this game, big total here as well, sitting at 50.5. So thoughts on Rams, Panthers?
Yeah, it's strange for a game with such a high total. I think it's one of the 3 highest of the main slate. I don't have a ton of interest in the game as a whole. I mean, there's some individual pieces that I want to get exposure to. Agree with you guys on Goff and the receivers. I definitely like to pair up my quarterback with a receiver or 2. I just don't know which way I would lean this week with Cooks, Woods, and Kupp all healthy entering week 1. As for Todd Gurley, maybe I have buyer's remorse from last season, postseason. I mean, just watching him on the sideline, watching C.J. Anderson get all that run. Yeah, it's a little scary for me. I mean, he is priced, pretty much up there. McCaffrey's only $900 more. And I know the reports have been positive, that he looks healthy and all that. But I think I will take a wait-and-see approach. He'll definitely be low-owned. So if you do want to build, a bunch of tournament lineups, I certainly think you can include him in your player pool. But I'm a little bit more hesitant than you guys on Gurley. Then on the opposite side, Cam Newton been dealing with the foot injury. Sounds like he's going to be good to go, but that does worry me a little bit for a dual-threat quarterback like himself. Love C-Mac, though. It's hard not to like him. Just gives you such a high floor and a high ceiling. The only problem that I have is that running back is extremely loaded. You look at that 6K range on DraftKings. I could play, 5 or 6 guys just in that price range alone. So I like McCaffrey. I'll have some exposure, but it's not one of those typical weeks where you just, plug in those, top-heavy running backs and then move on from there. I think there's just so many good options at the position that I'm not necessarily focusing on him. And then for the receivers, I kind of agree with Chop. I think DJ Moore is the better tournament play of the 2. In season-long leagues, Moore was getting drafted a lot higher than Samuel. And then, we heard camp reports. And in the preseason, Samuel's looked awesome. And now everybody wants to play him. Looks like he's going to be around 3 times as owned in tournaments. So I do think Moore's a nice tournament play. And then Samuel, I think he probably got to lick his way in cash games just given how cheap he is.
Yeah, people, Curtis Samuel hype is out of control, and it seems like people forgot about DJ Moore. So I think he'll definitely be the lower-owned option. I'd agree with you. Running back is absolutely loaded with some guys that are drastically underpriced that we're going to hit on here. So could make these higher-end guys a little lower-owned than they normally would be with people focusing on that range. But I agree completely. Cash games will focus on some of those cheaper guys most likely. Any leans on the game here? Rams -3, total 50.5. We're going to try to mix in some amateur sports betting picks here as well. Any strong leans here, Derek? You don't have to make a selection, but anything stand out in the lines there?
Nothing really stands out for me. The total does seem, I don't know, a bit low. I would probably take the over.
All right, Chop, any leans here on the -3 or the 50.5?
No, I mean, there's just some games where they tag that -3 in there on one side, and it's just such a good spread. I don't see either one of these teams being that much better than the other, to where I think 3 is a good number right there. So it's and then total is right on where I would imagine it to be. So I don't really it's not something I would touch.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't see anything. I think the numbers are good there. Before we move on, if you haven't downloaded the SharpSide app, guys, make sure you do that. Free contest. Let me say that again. Free contest with $10,000 in prizes, $5,000 the first. There's going to be halfway prizes, weekly prizes. But get over to SharpSide. Basically, you're picking games, and whoever does the best out of that is going to win $5,000 absolutely free. So a great app, lots of player props in there. All our totals and lines will come from there that we talk about, but a great way to get prepared for the week, kind of see what's going on. And you should be incorporating lines, totals into your DFS analysis. You're going to hear us talk about it a lot, so make sure you guys download SharpSide and get in that contest. All right, boys, let's go to the next game here, Tennessee and Cleveland. So obviously Cleveland is the story of the offseason here, Derek. Everybody talking Odell Beckham, Baker Mayfield. I love me some Nick Chubb. I know it's one of the running backs I think is vastly underpriced here. And then you go over to the Tennessee side. Please tell me something to get excited about with Tennessee, because I'm not seeing it. I think Cleveland rolls here. Nick Chubb, my favorite play today. But Baker to Odell, awfully enticing here in week 1. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, we'll start with the Titans because that's a pretty quick one. Don't have a ton of interest there. Mariota just hasn't shown much upside over the last couple of years. Derrick Henry needs a very specific game flow for him to reach his ceiling. They still have Deion Lewis, and this is a 5.5-point spread. So could see Lewis mixing in a little bit more than if they were favorites. And then the receivers don't really trust them. I mean, Corey Davis is still the number 1. Adam Humphries could mix in a little bit. But I just don't really love anyone from the Titans. It does scare me that this is only a 5.5-point spread. It does feel like a spot where the Browns should come out and just smash the Titans. But, yeah, low spread. As for Baker Mayfield, I mean, best beard-chugging skills outside of anyone other than Aaron Rodgers for sure. I do think, he's in a pretty good spot. A lot of weapons to work with. He's got Odell, Jarvis Landry, Rashard Higgins, and Njoku. So definitely like the spot for Baker Mayfield. A lot of quarterbacks that we can look to this week, pretty much any week. Ownership's never going to get out of control at the position, which is kind of nice because, as we mentioned, everyone likes to pair up their quarterback with some of their receivers. But the guy that I really love in this game is going to be Nick Chubb. Until Kareem Hunt returns, I'm just going to play him pretty much every week. We have so many workhorse running backs that feel, $1,000 or $2,000 too cheap that I think Chubb's in a great spot. He's a home favorite. Last year, the Titans weren't great against the pass or the run, and we've seen him do a little bit more pass catching work so far in the preseason. So I think it's a great spot for Chubb.
Yeah, big fan. Obviously, I'll save the Chubb jokes you've already heard, but underpriced. Yes, Tennessee was good against the run last season, but I think the sky's the limit for this guy. I think you're going to see him be more involved in the passing game. They're projected to score almost 28 points in this game. So love Nick Chubb. And Derek, I see you trying to goat me there on the beer chugging, talking about my boy Aaron Rodgers. I love me some Aaron Rodgers, obviously, but gotta say I was vastly disappointed in his beer chugging skills. I mean, everybody came out and beat him. Trubisky, Mayfield, hell, Tom Brady's old ass beat him in a beer chug. So definitely disappointed there. Well, he tried to say, if it was whiskey, blah, blah. Too many excuses for me, Aaron. Come on. Chop, anything on beer chugging, anything on Tennessee, anything that you don't like here with Cleveland?
Tennessee, the only thing I would say about Tennessee is it's highly unlikely that teams get shut out in the NFL. So somebody, so at some point they're going to score something. If I'm looking up and down that roster, I don't want any piece of the running backs. I could see Corey Davis. He's so athletic that he could be a guy. But Delaney Walker would be a guy I'll point to. If they score a touchdown, Tennessee, I got to imagine he would be my bet to get in the end zone for Tennessee. So maybe you could get some Delaney Walker if you really wanted to. when I look at the top tight ends this week anyway, you've got I don't like Ertz as much. We'll get to those games later, but just in general, I don't like Ertz this year as much as I did last year. Kittle, I don't like it. There's no way Kittle can repeat what he did. And so you're left with Kelsey against Jacksonville. So maybe you don't have to have that one of those top 3 tight ends. Maybe you can get away with Delaney Walker scoring a touchdown and catching like 70 yards for you, and he's the offense for Tennessee. That's the only thing I would say about Tennessee. I don't like them, but unlikely they get shut out, so I don't mind Delaney Walker. And I'm with you on Cleveland. I think they put up plenty of points here. Chubb should get in the end zone. But I definitely would not overlook Mayfield to Odell making a statement in week 1, just saying, you know what, Mayfield has never really had a guy like this, and Beckham, oh man, for sure has never had a quarterback like this. So I could definitely see these guys making a statement, and that being the tandem, or at least Odell being a guy who you have to win GPPs. But I'm with you guys. Cleveland looks good in general, and I think they run it up this game.
Yeah, Odell, highest priced receiver on DraftKings this week, and Mayfield expensive as well. So you get the discount on Nick Chubb, which I think a lot of people will go that route. But I'm with you. Odell brings you the biggest upside in the game, in my opinion. So thoughts on the line? Because I'm kind of with Derek. This line, I would have thought it would be 7 easily. So we got -5.5. We actually have juice for Tennessee and +5.5 at -115. 45.5 the total here, Chop. Something stink here, or is it just an accurate line? What do you think here with this line?
I mean, it definitely doesn't look right. So, but with that being said, maybe it just isn't right. I mean, I just don't see Cleveland. I gotta take Cleveland here. I feel like they're at least a touchdown better, and you're getting it less than a touchdown. I would take Cleveland. It doesn't look right, but sometimes that doesn't necessarily mean that it's that you should go the opposite way. Sometimes you just got to roll with it.
Right. I'm with you. I would rather go with Cleveland than take the Tennessee points plus the juice. Derek, your thoughts here? -5.5 or 45.5 on the total.
Yeah, it doesn't feel right, but I'll definitely take the Browns. I haven't seen, where the money's going, but I got to guess, 90% on Cleveland or something like that.
All right, let's move on to this one. Should be fun, guys. Obviously, Kansas City on the slate. That always makes for an entertaining game, but you send them to Jacksonville, who I think is going to be a little bit better defensively this season. So we have a Jacksonville expert here, Derek, a Jags fan. So we'll get your thoughts there in a second, Derek. But Kansas City, Chop. We know the big story, LaShawn McCoy in the house. So your thoughts there. I know a lot of people are going to be debating Damian Williams, LaShawn McCoy. Even go there. You get a big discount on McCoy. And then do you play Patrick Mahomes? Or are we looking for cheaper quarterbacks here? And is it because of the matchup or because there's just better quarterbacks out there? And then the Jacksonville side of things, I think, is very intriguing. So big game here. Thoughts, Chop, Kansas City and Jacksonville.
I like this offensive game a lot. I think with LaShawn McCoy being added to the mix, like I was starting to build lineups last week, just playing around with it. And I didn't mind Damian Williams. Not only did I keep him in my player pool, but I loved him on PPR sites as one of the premier ways for Kansas City to move the ball against this defense. But with McCoy added, I have to back off of that quite a bit. I really don't think it's not just that they add McCoy. They immediately give him $3 million guaranteed dollars. I don't think they do that just for the hell of it, unless they think this guy is going to actually come in and make us, whether he does or doesn't have it in him still, they think he does. So they're going to give him opportunities, which means it's less opportunity for Williams. So I probably got to back off of the running backs now because I just don't know how that's going to shake out. But with that being said, everybody will be trying to go low on quarterback salary-wise. There's no reason why Mahomes to Tyreek Hill can't be the thing that wins all the money this week, just like Mahomes did like the first 3 or 4 weeks last year. Like, if there's a way you're going to beat Jacksonville, Tyreek is the guy who can do it because he's got so much speed down the field. These guys could hook up for a couple of long touchdowns, and if you don't have them, then you're in big trouble. So, yeah, I definitely like Mahomes. Not only does he have Tyreek, he has Kelsey, another way you can beat this defense. So he's got the tools, man. Everybody will be spending down on them cheap quarterbacks. This guy, you're going to get him. I know ownership, like Derek says, doesn't really matter at quarterback, but you could still get the number one guy at the position for, 3 or 4% owned if you get lucky here. So I like that. I like that side of the ball, and I like Jacksonville's offense too this year. I mean, Foles, I don't think he's great, but man, it's better than Bortles. So he'll at least give us some semblance to the passing game. It'll help Fournette. They're saying Westbrook is the guy. He looked the guy for the really, really small size we saw him in the preseason. Another guy, I don't know if we need to save the money, but Chris Conley could very well be a guy who has a good week one, and that's going to allow you to get Mahomes and Kelsey and Tyreek Hill on the other side if you really wanted to go that route. So, yeah, everybody's going to be on Westbrook, but Conley could be the guy who's the leading receiver this week for Jacksonville. So I like this game quite a bit.
Little revenge narrative for Chris Conley as well, playing his
Yes, sir.
So I like that. I love Leonard Fournette this week, Derek. We know Kansas City got torched on the ground last season, 20 total touchdowns to the running back position. So thoughts with Fournette, or are you leaning more towards the passing game? And then how do you handle in Kansas City? Chop, one quick question. They're saying Jalen Ramsey is going to shadow Tyreek Hill. Does that worry you at all this week?
Guys like Tyreek, I never get worried about being shadowed. Like, let's say it's Julio Jones or a big wide receiver, and he's up against a big physical cornerback. That's the kind of stuff I would worry about a little bit. I do look at that, but I actually love a guy like Tyreek. If you're going to try to guard him one-on-one, this is hard to not get beat by Tyreek one-on-one. So if you're just going to shadow him and you're not going to do anything else with him, I would absolutely welcome that. And then that'll only make us get Tyreek at incredibly low ownership. So I like it. I'm not worried. Guy like Tyreek doesn't scare me getting shadowed by anybody.
All right, let's go to the Jags homer here, see what he thinks about Tyreek Hill, Jalen Ramsey. So, Derek, obviously it's going to be a great game. So your thoughts on this whole thing on both sides?
Yeah, so I'll start with Tyreek Hill. I definitely think cornerback wide receiver matchups matter, but I don't think they matter as much as they sway ownership. You know, there's only so many talking points that those of us that break down the games can talk about. So, wide receiver cornerback matchups tend to sway ownership more than they should. Like Chop mentioned, I think Tyreek Hill is one of those guys that doesn't really matter if you shadow him because he can outrun anybody on the field. And, Mahomes is going to, extend plays and look to target him down the field. So I love that. Don't mind that he is getting shadowed. I think that's going to help lower ownership. And, yeah, I like pairing him up with Mahomes. Also think you can pair him up with Travis Kelce. Mahomes, that is. The two positions that everyone tries to save at are quarterback and tight end, and I kind of think that's going to be the case in week one. So spending up on those two positions will get you a unique roster build. And as we've mentioned a couple of times, a lot of value at running back and wide receiver. And then on the other side, yeah, I think Nick Foles is definitely an upgrade. He's not an elite talent, but he's certainly better than Bortles, and I think he's going to help this offense. They brought in a new offensive coordinator. They got fired in Minnesota for passing too much, which is a little strange given, the way the NFL is these days. But I think it's going to be a much better year for the Jags. I like Fournette right out the gate. I think he's going to be pretty much a three-down back. Alfred Blue's on the IR. Don't think Raquel Armstead is really ready to take on a big role. So love the spot for Fournette. The Jaguars are projected to score over 24 points, and those have to come from somewhere. So I'll be playing a lot of Fournette. I'll be playing a lot of D.D. Westbrook. In that one preseason game, Foles targeted him on 7 of his 10 pass attempts. So they got some chemistry going. Don't hate the Conley call, and I think it's a great game to stack up.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's one of the better game stacks you mentioned. Both you mentioned Westbrook, 4,800 on DraftKings. Great price there for Fournette, only 6,100. So a lot of people will be stacking Kansas City. There's a lot of ways that you can run it back with Jacksonville and get a piece or two, hope that game shoots out. So let's take a look at the total. 52.5. We got juice on the under, and Kansas City minus 3.5. Some juice over on the Jacksonville side. Derek, any leans there on the side or the total?
Yeah, I don't have a strong take either way, but I like that it's 3.5. Maybe Jazz can keep this within 3, so I'll take the points. Homer's
taking the points. Chop, you with him here?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I like Jacksonville. I don't think at home that they're worse, than the field goal. So I would take Jacksonville. The total, that could go. That's one of those things that just not a strong take on that because you need the right game script for that thing to get over. And that game script could very well happen. But what happens if, they start pounding Fournette and then you're burning the clock? So, Yeah, I think Jacksonville being the underdog here at home is the best way to go.
And I think a lot of people will go Kansas City. Do you just see the Chiefs? They're a small favorite against a team that wasn't very good last season. I'm expecting Jacksonville to bounce back. So we'll make it a sweep here. I'll take Jacksonville with the points at home as well. All right, next game, guys, Baltimore and Miami. So we have one team in Baltimore. I think there's a lot of options, a lot of ways that you could go here. Miami seems to be in full-on tank mode. So, Derek, find us some value at Miami. I think there's some intriguing names. See if we're on the same page here. Or does Baltimore just come in here and tear them apart? Is the Baltimore D a must-play as well? So, thoughts, Ravens and Dolphins?
Yeah, I don't know about the Dolphins. There's definitely some value here. I don't know if it's good value. Like Chop mentioned in the other game, they are going to score some points. So, somebody's going to play well here, but I just don't see a lot that I love. Fitzmagic is back. We loved targeting him last year on Tampa Bay, but definitely a different spot for him. Kenyon Drake sounds like he's going to be able to play week 1, which hurts, Kalen Ballage a little bit. Don't really trust any of their receivers. And plus, it's a tough matchup against Baltimore. They were ranked 3rd in total DVOA and 3rd against the pass, 6th against the run last year. So really a tough spot for me. I would probably rather play the Ravens defense than the Dolphins. Then on the other side, pretty much just want to play Lamar Jackson. I think he's one of the better cash game quarterbacks of the slate. He's one of those rare quarterbacks that doesn't really depend on game script because he's going to be running the ball, even if they're ahead. Most quarterbacks, when they build a big lead, they're going to be, handing off to the running back. But I think Lamar Jackson is going to be involved in all 4 quarters, and I think he's going to take some steps forward in terms of his ability to, make plays with his arm as well. So, really like the spot for Lamar. I think he could easily get you that 100-yard bonus. And he's kind of built in with 5 or 6 points just given his rushing floor, which I love. I'll take a wait-and-see approach with Mark Ingram in the backfield there. And if I'm pairing up Lamar Jackson, which I don't think you need to, but I would probably look to Mark Andrews.
Yeah, Andrews only 3,000. Lamar Jackson, pretty much a guarantee to almost 3x the salary at $6K. I mean, never been below 16 DraftKings points in any of his starts here. So love that call. He's my favorite quarterback on the week as well. Justice Hill, I think, is intriguing. We'll see if he has a role right away, but only 3,600 there. So a cheap running back option as well. So, Chop, thoughts on Baltimore? It seems to be the team with more options here. Anything on the Miami side of things for you?
Yeah, Baltimore, just like you said, I'm taking on my Lamar Jackson teams I'm just eliminating must pair a wide receiver or tight end with them. I'm not doing that. So I can roll out a little naked Lamar, man. I don't feel bad about that at all. I just don't see who we can pair him with. It's going to be really, even if somebody catches a long touchdown, that's not even, I think you can outdo that in other places anyway. So naked Lamar, man, that's the way to go in this game. Miami, like y'all said, is in tank mode. I don't think they put up much resistance here. If I'm going to pick anybody in this lineup, it might be Albert Wilson.
Yes.
So Albert, they're going to be playing from behind. They're just in bad shape. I think they're doing the old basketball thing. They're already tanking before the season even starts. So yeah, those other guys don't intrigue me any much. So Albert Wilson's the guy who's had a nice pedigree of having big upside. And if I think Miami's going to be trailing in this game and Fitzpatrick can wing it a little bit when there's no pressure on him, like as far as like nothing to lose, just squad. We're down by 21. Let's wing it around. I think Albert Wilson's a guy you could play.
Yeah, that's my guy as well. 3,900. We've seen some big weeks out of him before he got hurt last season. Was actually playing pretty well. And if you get good Fitzpatrick in a team that's playing from behind, he could easily throw for 300 yards in this game. So I'm intrigued by Preston Williams. I don't know that I go there yet. I kind of want to see how these things break down as far as their receiver depth chart. But Albert Wilson at 3,900 would be the guy I would play here as well. So thoughts on the line. Baltimore minus 7.5 in this one. Obviously a lower total here, but thoughts on that one, Chop? Any leans one way or the other there? 38 is the total.
I'm going to go, man, that is a tough total. That is such a low total. I want to go under, but 38 is so low. I'm going to go I'm just going to go ahead and give up the points here with Baltimore. I think Miami's in full tank mode. I want to go under, man, but they didn't help me out by putting that thing up over 40. So I'll take Baltimore, and I just think Miami's not going to score very much, and Lamar Jackson, this will be one of the better matchups for him all year long. So he'll be able to put some touchdowns on the board and cover that spread.
I'm with you. I think Baltimore's a smash spot here, although there's plenty of juice. The big juice on Miami at -125. The under also juiced at -115. Derek, thoughts? -7.5, a total of 38.
Yeah, I've seen the spread at 7 in a lot of places. I would feel a lot better about it because I could see Miami, scoring late in a meaningless touchdown and, losing by 7 points. So if you can get it at 7, I would prefer that, but I'll still take Baltimore at 7.5.
All right, next game, guys, Atlanta and Minnesota. So this is an intriguing two NFC heavyweights here. I think both of these teams with big-time upside this season, both potential playoff contenders. Minnesota at home, small favorite at -4. We got a 47-point total here. So, Chop, Matt Ryan on the road, but, gets an indoor game. Atlanta plays 13 of their 16 games indoors this season. So, is that something you want to attack? Julio Jones here, another guy in a tough quarterback matchup, but to see how play that. And Minnesota, it's been all about Dalvin Cook, in my opinion, and he looks pretty cheap here this week on DraftKings, sitting at just 6,000. So I'm sure that's one of the running backs Derek was talking about. So Falcons, Vikings, a lot to get to here in this one as well. Chop, what do you got?
Yeah, this is a good game. I like this game a lot. On the Falcons side, Matt Ryan, oh man, he was really good last year. I don't expect him to drop off a whole lot. Devontae Freeman still is the only running back, is the guy they're going to start, but he's not going to last very long. So, I expect Ryan to have another good year. I think it starts this week. The Vikings defense, I think, is a tad bit overrated. They were really good a few years ago, and slowly but surely under Zimmer, they've gotten progressively just a tad bit worse every year. So who knows if it all comes caving in this week or this year. I don't mind Matt Ryan. I'm going to avoid the rushing game for Atlanta, but I think Julio Jones, man, out there on an island with Xavier Rhodes, that's right up his alley. I like that one a lot. Xavier Rhodes used to be a guy we really wanted to avoid. Lately, not so much. So I think Julio can absolutely take care of business in this game. I like Julio. There's also plenty of weapons there for Matt Ryan to take some pressure off of Julio. Calvin really came into his own last year. Sanu's still there. And Hooper, very underrated tight end. I think they're going to put up points via the air here. So I like that Matt Ryan, Julio Jones connection. On the other side, everybody's going to be going Dalvin Cook. He's the first guy they're going to look at Minnesota, and they should, because he looks on paper like this is going to be a good year for him. With that being said, if there's going to be points scored, why not change it up and go Cousins to Diggs or Cousins to Thielen? If twice as many people are going to be on Cook than the wide receivers, I'll take a shot at the wide receivers. Why not? So I don't mind the Cousins and his passing connection in this game. Cook, I don't really have to talk about him. He's getting high projections. He's getting a lot of love. He's getting I'm looking – plugging up the RotoGrinders projected ownership right now. It must be a mistake. They're saying Cook is 32% owned projected ownership. That's I'm looking at Diggs at 12%. I'll take that 12% in this match. Not that I think Diggs is better than Cook, but just if you're going to give me almost 3 times the ownership, I'll take Diggs. But yeah, I'll take the passing game in tournaments here.
Yeah, and I don't hate that call. And one thing you can do if you like Dalvin Cook this week, play him in cash games. I mean, 6K is a great price, and then you avoid the 32, 33, 35% ownership in tournaments wherever it lands if you're worried about that. So that's kind of one way I can handle higher-owned players that you want exposure to. And generally, the higher-owned players make for good cash game plays. It's just the way it is. If you're new to the game, it's something you can look at if you're looking for a starting point. So, Derek, kind of same questions here. Which way are you leaning with Minnesota? I think there's a lot of ways you can go. And then Atlanta. Love the Julio call. Really love the Austin Hooper call. The Vikings were not very good against tight ends, and they keep talking this guy up, especially around the red zone. So wouldn't shock me to see him get a cheap touchdown. But thoughts here, Falcons, Vikings.
Yeah, don't have a lot to disagree with here. On the Falcons side, don't mind Julio Jones. Xavier Rhodes didn't play all that well last year. He's still only 29 and was banged up a little bit, and he does have success against Julio in their past matchups. But I'll always take Julio in one-on-one coverage. I like the fact that they're indoors. I like that they are small underdogs. Might keep them throwing the ball all game. And then definitely like Austin Hooper, 3,200. I think a lot of people will look to Hunter Henry. He'll probably be the chalk tight end this week if you're spending down. And the Vikings were 30th against tight ends last year. So definitely like the spot for Hooper. I think he could really step up and be, a top 5 tight end this year. Probably won't be playing a ton of Matt Ryan or the run game, but I do like Julio and Hooper quite a bit. Then on the opposite side, you guys made all the right points. Dalvin Cook's going to be probably the most popular running back of the slate, assuming Zeke is able to suit up for the Cowboys if they get that worked out. If not, then Pollard might be. But Cook's going to be popular. Looked good in the preseason. Looked explosive and really good price point as well. So I like him in cash games. I still think you can play him in tournaments, but that natural leverage going with the passing game makes a lot of sense. If the touchdowns end up coming through the air, then you're going to get you're just going to be able to pass so many teams in tournaments with Cousins, with Diggs, with Thielen. So I definitely agree with everything you guys have been saying.
All right, line -4. Got a little bit of a juice on Minnesota there, -115. Total 47, -125 on the over. Derek, any thoughts there on the side or the total?
Not really. I mean, it seems pretty good to me. The total seems pretty good. I don't have a strong lean one way or the other. If I had to choose something, I'd probably go with the over because I do think both passing games will have some success here.
Yeah, I don't have a strong feeling on the side. I think this is going to be a close game, probably come down to the end, so that 4 feels about right. But I'm leaning at the over here as well, 47. Chop, any thoughts here on -4 over 47?
Yeah, I'll take the Falcons as a 4-point underdog. I think, like you just said, it's a pretty close game. I think it comes down to a field goal. I think everybody's got this image in their head of that terrible Atlanta defense last year, but I've never seen a team get hit by that kind of defensive injury, the way they did early last year. So they're going to be better. I think 4 is a little bit too much. I'll take Atlanta.
All right, let's go from an exciting potential shootout to maybe not so much here, Chop. Buffalo and the Jets, just a 40.5-point total here. The Jets, small -3 favorites at home. So 2 questions for you. This game should be quick. Are we believing in Josh Allen? What we saw at the end of last season, the guy was winning people $1 million week in, week out, but all offseason it's been the regression talk. Can he do that again? So that's my question for you. On the Buffalo side, the Jets side of things, I think Le'Veon Bell is the big question here. I'm more of a skeptic than a believer. 7,100 looks like a decent price on DraftKings. So those are my 2 questions. Josh Allen, Le'Veon Bell, go.
Josh Allen, I do believe in Josh Allen as a fantasy asset. I do believe in him. I think he can keep that up because he's just such a strong runner that I give it, and then they're going to throw it. They got him some more weapons this year, so that should help hit the passing, but he's always going to be a good runner, so I like that. Whew, the other one is that's a tough one to call, man. That's what makes this game. It's not good from a fantasy point this week, but it's interesting for down the road. If I was going to lean one way, I would say Bell is probably going to be just a shell of what he was in Pittsburgh, not because he's worse of an athlete right now, but just because it's different system, just different scenario, man. Going from a great quarterback with great wide receivers to this, So yeah. I don't believe in Bell as much, but I do believe in Allen. I think he gets. But I'm interested to see Allen. I'm interested to see Devin Singletary. Maybe not play him this week, but man, I think he has a chance to be an explosive running back in this offense. And if that's the case, then when we get a good matchup down the road, I'll know to play him. So I want to keep my eyes on Singletary. I don't like the pass catching here because I think Josh Allen could spread it out with all these weapons. I know Robert Foster was the guy who absolutely, like you said, helped Josh Allen win people GPPs last year at the end of the year. But now they got John Brown, Zay Jones, Cole Beasley's in the mix now. So, yeah, I'd probably pass on trying to guess that game right there. Josh Allen could be just like Lamar Jackson. You could run him out there naked. That's what I did in my lineup so far. So I like that. On the flip side, the Jets are at home. I don't like this matchup, but they're projected to win. They're going to score some points. And so I probably wouldn't mind Le'Veon Bell as a pivot to some of the other higher-owned guys that are out there. And so I would go that route. But otherwise, it's a tough matchup, man. It's not a fun matchup, but I think it's worth keeping an eye on for the future, though.
Yeah, I agree. Singletary is a guy I'm definitely very high on. Again, I agree with you. I don't think this is the week to play him, but he is cheap. And if you think he's going to be the starter, we'll see. I still think Frank Gore is going to take some touches early on until this kid gets acclimated. But 3,600 on DraftKings, nice price. So if he has a couple down weeks, maybe we may get him under 3,500 at some point in a much better matchup. On the Jets side, I kind of like Jamison Crowder at 4,100, and that's more if Robbie Anderson plays. And some people are like, why would you like him if Robbie Anderson plays? He's going to take away coverage from Crowder, who's been the talk of the preseason, a guy that plays the slot, very cheap. But if he's the number one focus, I don't want that. If Anderson's out there, he takes away some coverage. Crowder could be intriguing. If I did I'm with you on Allen, too. I don't think you have to stack him, but John Brown would be the guy I would take my shot on at 4,300. Derek, your thoughts here, Buffalo and the Jets.
Yeah, pretty ugly game overall. I'll take a couple pieces. On the Jets side, I do think Sam Darnold's going to take a step forward, but definitely not looking to play him week one. Le'Veon Bell, I'll take a wait-and-see approach. I think he could come out firing, but it's definitely not as good of a spot as he had in Pittsburgh. I agree with you on Jamison Crowder. I think he's going to be one of the better point-per-dollar options on DraftKings. He's only 4,100. He's had good chemistry with Darnold in the preseason. And as you mentioned, if Robbie Anderson plays, I think that definitely helps, a slot receiver like Crowder. Don't mind looking to the Jets defense either. Josh Allen, very turnover prone last season, and kind of expect that to continue. Took a lot of sacks. So don't mind looking at the Jets defense. And then on the other side, I do agree with Chop. I think Josh Allen is a very good fantasy quarterback. I don't think he's a very good real life quarterback, but we only care about the former. So with his rushing upside, with his ability to take shots downfield, I certainly don't hate him in tournaments. Singletary, like you guys mentioned, 3,600. He's cheap. I do think some people will look his way, but the opportunity cost of running back is just so high this week. I'll probably take a wait-and-see approach. But keep an eye, on the beat writers or beat reports and just see whether or not he's going to get the start. And if he does, if they're talking him up, then, maybe you could play him as a value. I like Cole Beasley. I think he's an interesting spot at 3,600, kind of a possession receiver. He's kind of been Allen's go-to guy in the preseason. So don't mind looking at him and Crowder if you need some cheap receivers in this game.
And sometimes it's worth diving in early on guy when there's no clarity yet, and everybody's waiting for that clarity, so they don't want to play a guy. You jump in, take your shot. 3,600, it's not a huge investment. So I think he would be one of those guys that take your chance. Maybe he breaks off a big run or has a nice game there. Nobody's really going to go that route. So either you Cowboys want to bet on this game? You want to get crazy? Jets -3, 40.5. Any interest here, Derek?
Nope.
Chop?
I want the under on this game.
Okay. You're thinking like a 10-3 or what?
I'm thinking that the Bills have a good defense. The Jets, I think, are going to have a better defense than what people think, and the offenses may struggle a little bit. So, yeah, 41, that's kind of the number. I like that. I like it going under. I could see this thing being 20, the winning team scoring 20 points, which would keep me under that 41.
All right, got juice on the over right now, but I tend to agree with you. If I was going anything, which I'm not, this game's a stay away for me, but maybe we'll get an ugly game in that under. All right, next game, last 1 o'clock Eastern game for us here. Washington and Philly. Obviously, Philly a big home favorite, -10. 46 is the total here, Derek. So I love Philly this season. I think the worry is how much they're going to spread the ball out to so many different options. I know Chop talked about Ertz. I have the same concerns there. Alshon Jeffrey, Deshaun Jackson, Miles Sanders. There's just so many ways they can go with this team. And at home as a big 10-point favorite, I don't know that this is the week to play Eagles. If you agree, disagree with that, Washington's a stay away from me. Maybe you got something there, but your thoughts here, Redskins and Eagles.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I like the Eagles team as a whole. I just don't love their individual pieces for DFS. I do think Carson Wentz is going to be a pretty popular cash game target. He's popping in most of the models that I've looked at this week. And 5,700, certainly don't blame you. It does have a lot of weapons, like you mentioned, and don't necessarily have to pair him up with somebody in cash games. So I don't mind looking at him there. Zach Ertz, I think he's fine at tight end. If I'm paying up, I would probably rather just go up to Travis Kelce. I've been avoiding the Eagles backfield for years. No reason to start playing them now. Just not a ton to love on the Eagles side. I do like their defense quite a bit against the Redskins. They got a really bad offensive line. Case Keenum was really bad in Denver last year. So I think the Eagles roll in this one, and I don't mind playing their defense. as far as the Redskins go, I just don't think I can play anyone. I mean, they want to get Darius Geis involved, but still have Peterson and Thompson. As I mentioned, Keenum just didn't show much of anything last year in Denver. Bad offensive line. Jordan Reed's been dealing with a concussion, and the receivers just aren't that talented. So I really don't like this Redskins team, and I think the Eagles roll.
Yeah, I do too. I think they get blown out. So we'll talk spreads, but I'll gladly take Philly -10 here at home. I think they roll here. Chop, thoughts on the game, and if you do think it's a blowout, are you just staying away from Eagles for DFS purposes this week?
Well, I do think it's a blowout like you guys. I do think Washington's in trouble, and they're a wasteland for fantasy this week for me, so I don't want any part of that. The one guy I did want was Deshaun Jackson. Man, and then he went and broke his finger in camp here last week, so I don't know if I can pull the trigger on Deshaun this week with a bum finger. So it may be something where, yeah, man, you don't know how it's all going to pan out, so – without that Deshaun Jackson to fall back on, it may be a thing where I may just stay away from it. But I think you're right. I think you guys hit it on the head.
All right, let's move on to the afternoon games here. We have the Colts traveling out to L.A. to take on the Chargers. No Andrew Luck. Obviously, is the big news. Was a shocker, but they move forward. They give Jacoby Brissett a bunch of money the other day, which I don't quite understand. But tough spot here going to the Chargers, who I think are one of the better, well-balanced teams in the league here. No Melvin Gordon, it's looking like, Chop. So thoughts on the Chargers? We'll start there. You know, Eckler, Justin Jackson looking to share the load. You get a nice discount on Justin Jackson if you want to go that route on DraftKings, $1,500 cheaper than Austin Eckler. So do the Chargers roll here? Do the Colts keep up? Thoughts on Colts and Chargers?
Yeah, the Chargers are going to be very, very tough to figure out. I think there's a chance if you got it right, yeah, you could be – it could help you win some good money this week, but I think a lot more people are going to get it way wrong, and it's going to make for a lot of dead lineups. They're at home against the Colts, who just lost Andrew Luck, so I could see this thing being a ground and pound, you know, where you're sitting on the ball the second half. And then in that case, I think Justin Jackson would be the guy as opposed to Eckler, and a lot of people are going to play Eckler. And then for your pass catchers, I thought when I saw this lineup that they're going to put out there this year, like, this is going to be a crapshoot every week. Keenan Allen's not a lock anymore, I don't think. Mike Williams took a big step last year and is only going to get better this year. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, now you add Hunter Henry back in the mix. These guys are going to be fighting for targets, man. And I think any given week, any one of them could win you a tournament, but they're also going to kill a lot of lineups. So it's a tough one for me to get behind any Chargers just because they're so deep everywhere. I don't know. So I guess right offhand, I would say Justin Jackson, because I think they can get the lead and nurse it in the second half, and I think it'll be Jackson instead of Eckler. Eckler being more of the pass catcher. So Justin Jackson would be a good lead. But then we've got so many cheap, good running backs already this week. Do I really got to take a chance on that? I don't know. See, it's a tough one, man. I might just stay away. On the flip side, the Colts, these poor guys, man, we're looking at a division championship and a chance at getting deep in the playoffs, and then the guy goes and retires on them right before the season starts. I think it's going to hurt everybody's value more fantasy wise. So the one guy who may withstand is T.Y. Hilton, just because I think Brissett could be just as good on the long balls. But we're playing outdoors, and you never take T.Y. outdoors, so I'll probably wait till he gets back home to do that. But as far as Marlon Mack is going to, takes a big hit. Eric Ebron takes a big hit. Doyle, I think, takes a big hit. So that's tough for me to get behind. I don't really like this game, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like the Colts side of things. It's been tough to find something to get excited about there. I guess Brissett at 4,400 if you think they can keep it close. But I'm with you on Justin Jackson. I think that's the way I would rather go. I know Eckler, the pass catcher there, but a $1,500 discount. These guys are probably splitting the work at a minimum. I think Jackson could go overlooked here. And Hunter Henry, going to be popular, way too cheap, $3,900 on DraftKings. That's another, kind of like Dalvin Cook. You want to play him, I would do it in cash games. I think it's a phenomenal cash game play. But tournaments, I think you're going to see very, very high ownership on Hunter Henry. So thoughts there, Derek? Anything to get excited about the Colts and then how you handling all these options we have with the Chargers?
Yeah, I'm not as down on the Colts as most, just because Brissett's their starter. I mean, I know he wasn't great in 2017, but they got a much better offensive line. They got a better coaching staff. So I'm not as down on them. I probably won't play a ton of them, but if you do want to create a unique roster build, you could play Brissett and then, maybe load him up with Barkley and C-Mac, and everyone else is going to be playing those mid-range running backs. And right off the bat, you got a very different looking lineup. So I certainly don't hate that. Chop hit the nail on the head with T.Y. Hilton. You don't want to play him when he's outdoors. So don't really know who I would pair up Brissett with, but Doyle did catch 80 balls from him back in 2017, and he's going to be less than 1% owned probably this week. As far as the Chargers, I kind of agree with everything you guys said. Everyone kind of seems like a good cash game option. Hunter Henry is going to be popular. He rates out well in terms of projection models. You have Keenan Allen, who does have a high floor, but at the same time, they could easily go to Mike Williams. Travis Benjamin always seems to show up at random times. And then it's probably going to be 60-40 split for Eckler and Jackson. So like you guys mentioned, it looks like Eckler is going to be 25% owned. Jackson's going to be 2% owned. So with the $1,500 discount and a 20% ownership discount, certainly think Jackson's a nice pivot in tournaments.
All right, let's talk the spread here. Looked a little lower than I thought it would be. -6.5 here for the Chargers. Thoughts there, Derek? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm taking way too many favorites, but I do like the Chargers in this one.
And a 43.5 point total as well. Chop, any thoughts on the -6.5 or the 43.5? Big time juice on the over here.
This is one I would go over. I do think the over has a chance here. I think the Chargers could pretty much score on anybody with this lineup, which is good for real life, not as good for fantasy with all the mouths to feed. But I think they'll name their score, and the Colts will be able to keep up, within a couple touchdowns and maybe even a spread buster at the end. So I think we can hit the over on this one.
Yeah, I'm leaning the Chargers here. The 6.5 feels low. Always makes you a little nervous when it's under that 7. But I think by game time this gets to 7, and the Chargers roll in this one. All right, 4 games left for us here in Week 1. Again, you're listening to the DFS OGs podcast right here on RotoGrinders. Thank you guys for tuning in. Next game, boys, Cincinnati, Seattle, another big favorite here, -10 for Seattle. Total of 44, Derek. And I absolutely love Seattle this week. Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett should see a ton of targets here. Chris Carson should smash here. What's not to like about Seattle? Do you have a favorite here? Am I way too optimistic on this team? I'm going to have a lot of Seattle here and maybe run it back with a little Tyler Boyd. So thoughts here, Seahawks and Bengals.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I love Seattle this week. I was hoping that would be sneaky, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. Just a great spot. I mean, Cincinnati's defense was terrible last year. They didn't make too many improvements in the offseason. Playing at home, we know Seattle's defense isn't going to be as good, so that should help keep games a little bit closer this year. Carson's probably going to be, one of my favorite plays. They've been talking him up all offseason. Penny did not look good in the preseason. They want to get him, 50 targets or so. So, you add that pass catching ability to, his ability to score in the red zone. And I think he's a strong play. And then, don't mind looking at Lockett and Russell Wilson as well. I think it's a really good spot for the Seahawks. Certainly don't mind their defense. Anytime we get a big home favorite, you could definitely look at their defense. On the Bengals side, it's just a tough spot. In Seattle, playing without A.J. Green, implied total of only 17 points. But I do like Tyler Boyd a little bit. The volume should be there without A.J. Green. I do think he offers point per dollar upside. And if he finds the end zone, then I think he can really pay off that price tag.
All right, I'm going to add DK Metcalf here too, Chop. I think he's in play. We've been banged up a lot, but it looks like he's going to start. Looks like he's ready to go. 4,000. So pick your poison here with Seattle. You stacking them up. You favor the running game, the passing game, everything. And then who's your running back with Cincinnati? They don't have a whole lot of options. Seems like Boyd may be the best option. So what do you think? Bengals, Seahawks.
Yeah, I would say I definitely like Seattle side of it. Just like seems like everybody else. Wilson and Lockett really looks juicy this week for sure. And Chris Carson, you can do that route too. Question is, if you're going to stack it up a little bit, who are you going to run it back with? You guys say Tyler Boyd. I say Joe Mixon. I think Mixon is matchup. He's getting to the matchup proof territory for me. And I think if we're going to be behind in this game, he's going to be in there catching a lot of passes. I think he's going to be the guy who has the best chance of breaking something into the end zone. So I'm running back with Joe Mixon.
All right, thoughts on the spread, -10. Heavy juice on Cincinnati here, actually. -135 on them, +10. Over-under sitting at 44. No juice either way there, just the minus 110. Any leans here, Chop?
I just no, it just nothing seems right here. That's a lot of points, and I get it. Seattle's at home; it's a lot, man. So, and then the total doesn't. There's nothing about it that looks great. So, no, there's no lean for me here.
Same boat. I think Seattle wins this game handily, but it feels like one where Cincinnati kind of hangs in there and then scores one late, and maybe they win by 8 or 9. The total feels about spot on. So, Derek, any leans for you? Minus 10 or 44?
Yeah, 10's a lot of points, so no strong lean that way, but I do like the over. I think the Seahawks defense is a little bit worse this year, and the Bengals defense is probably going to be one of the worst in the league. So I think some points could be scored in this one.
All right, next game for us, the big reveal for Arizona. I've been looking forward to this. A lot of people were high on them. Kyler Murray's the next big thing. Then they bailed after that one preseason game. So it's been a tidal wave for Arizona here, Chop, and they haven't showed us anything. So we kind of get the reveal here. The problem is, it's a pretty tough matchup. Detroit, I don't think is going to be a very good team this year, but their defense looks legit, especially that front four, front seven. I think that could pose problems. They were very good against mobile quarterbacks last season. So as excited as I am about Arizona, I'm probably in a more wait-and-see approach. Where do you come out here? Do you want to fire them up while everybody's waiting, worried about the matchup? And then the Detroit side of things, I think they're going to go overlooked, but I love a guy like Kerryon Johnson. Even a Kenny Galladay, who I'm kind of down on for season long, but no Patrick Peterson. I think both of these guys are in for a big day. So, thoughts, Chop, Lions, Cardinals.
I definitely think there's room for Arizona to be very good offensively and fantasy-wise this year. But like you said, this is not an easy matchup. Not only is the defense pretty solid, but that offense for Detroit really wants to just run the ball and grind it out. So they could be eating up a lot of clock. They could get Arizona totally out of the rhythm. So there's going to be victory laps taken one way or another here. Either the anti-Arizona crowd or the pro-Cliff Kingsbury crowd is going to – I don't know. I'm kind of up in the air with it, but I'll have some exposure to Arizona for sure. I don't know if it's going to happen this week, but ultimately Kyler Murray is going to be a very, very good DFS play. Just awesome fantasy guy because of the running. So that's all it takes is the running. David Johnson's going to be good. Don't know if it's going to be this week, though. And the receivers, I'm a little bit more iffy on. I think Fitzgerald's a little bit long in the tooth, so I don't know if I want to go there. Christian Kirk, I thought was pretty good at A&M, but he may, he could still be a pro bust. There's nothing that says this guy's going to be good. You may be left with Andy Isabella, and we don't really know if a 4'7" receiver is going to really do a lot of damage in the NFL. So I don't know, man. The pass catchers got me kind of twisted in a knot, but I do think Kyler Murray and David Johnson are going to be solid long term. I just don't know if it's going to happen this week. On the flip side, I'm with you on the passing game. I think Kenny Galladay, but there's a chance it's even Marvin Jones. You hit it on the head. Arizona's going to come into this game with some secondary injuries and suspensions already. They're already going to be shorthanded in the secondary. So I think getting a piece of either Galladay or Marvin Jones could be a very, very big time in this game. So, and with that being said, if you like two receivers in this game, you might as well fire up the quarterback too. So I don't mind Stafford.
All right, Derek, thoughts here, Arizona? Are they going to come out and fly, or are they going to flop here in week 1 against Detroit?
Yeah, maybe I'm drinking too much Kingsbury Kool-Aid. I don't know. I'm all in on this Cardinals team, at least for the first few weeks. I think he's yet to show his cards, and I think it's going to take a while for What's that?
That's a good pun right there.
I got you.
He's yet to show his cards, man.
Unintentional punch. I don't think that was intended, but it was.
No, he set us up. He knew what he was doing. No, he knew what he was doing.
Obviously knew what I was doing. But yeah, so I'm not too worried about the matchup. They're playing at home. They want to be the fastest paced offense in the NFL. I think they're going to be aggressive right out of the gate. And when pricing came out for DraftKings, everyone thought Kyler Murray was going to be the most popular quarterback of the entire slate week 1. And then he had 2 bad drives in week 2 of the preseason. Now nobody wants to play him. So, I'll definitely take Kyler Murray. I'll take some shares of David Johnson as well. I think, he has a lot to prove after a down year last year that really wasn't his fault. So I'm buying both of them. I do agree that I don't want a ton of shares of the receivers at this moment, but I love the spot for Murray and Johnson. And then on the Lions side, I agree with you guys. We saw in the preseason the Cardinals' pass defense was just atrocious, and they're going to be without Alford and without Patrick Peterson. So I think it's a great spot for Galladay. You could look to Marvin Jones. And then, Kerryon Johnson with no Theo Riddick. I think that definitely opens up some more opportunities in the passing game for him. And I think it's a sneaky shootout right here.
All right. Any thoughts on the line here? Oh, of course, it died on me. You guys got the line? Oh, here it is. -2.5 for Detroit. Road favorites, 47 is the total. Derek, any thoughts on that?
Clearly, I'm taking Cardinals money line with the over.
There you go. Parlaying it up. Chop, any thoughts on the line here? 2.5 or 47?
Yeah, I'll take it's this. I want this total. It either goes one of two ways. It's either a grind fest and it just never even comes close, or it just clicks for Arizona and then both teams get into a bit of a shootout. So I'll take the over, just thinking that might happen.
Yeah, this is one of those. It could be 17. Both teams just look awful, or there's 70 points on the board like a college game. So I'll go over as well. I hate betting unders. Who has time to bet unders? I know that's where the edge is, but that's no fun bet.
If you bet an under, you can't watch the game because it's just so painful, man. It's just so painful to watch it and be rooting for nothing, and it's just terrible.
It is terrible. And again, I get it. There's edges in unders. So, I don't need the analytics crowd attacking me here, but unders suck. There's no fun in the unders. All right, let's move on. Dallas and the Giants. Chop, we'll save you for last year. We obviously have big Ezekiel Elliott questions. So put your reporter cap on, and we'll see as of this recording, is he back yet? But Derek, we'll start with you here. Dallas home favorites, about a touchdown favorite here at home. Obviously, Zeke, the big question. So both ways. Just play it both ways. If he's out, obviously Tony Pollard, one of the better value, if not the best value, is on the board. If Zeke is back here in the net today, tomorrow, interest level, do you worry about him being rusty? Do you believe he's been working out? And then go to the Giants side of things. It seems to be Saquon or bust, maybe a little Evan Ingram, but thoughts here, Giants and Cowboys.
Yeah, for the Cowboys, if Zeke is out, then I think you just hit the lock button on Tony Pollard. For years and years, we just want to lock in that bell cow running back that's going to be cheap, that's filling in for the guy. He's been great in the preseason, getting talked up by Jerry Jones and pretty much everyone in the Cowboys organization. It's a great matchup as well. They're home favorites, so definitely would lock in Tony Pollard. I think it's a good spot for Dak as well. He's looked pretty good. And then if Zeke plays, I'll probably just be avoiding that backfield situation altogether. Jerry Jones saying that he wants Zeke to be ready for the playoffs and late in the season. So I don't really know if I want to play Zeke right off the bat, even if he ends up showing up. So I like Dak a little bit. I like Pollard if Zeke ends up being out, obviously. And then Cooper and Gallup, both interesting GPP plays. Jason Witten, he's basically unrosterable for 14 of the 16 games every year, but he's always scores against the Giants. So if you want to play that narrative, you can. And then on the Giants side, there's really only one guy that I have interest in, and pretty obvious there, Saquon Barkley. Doesn't really matter the matchup, doesn't really matter the game flow. He's going to get his rushing attempts. He's going to be a big weapon in the passing game. I worry about their passing game as a whole just because Eli Manning's still the starter, but I'll always have interest in Saquon Barkley, so that's pretty much it for me on the Giants side.
Yeah, averaged about 26 DraftKings points a game last season, 2 games against Dallas. So he does his thing. We know that. So, Chop, what's going on with your boy Zeke? The last I heard, they're close. They told me that this morning. We're recording, what do we got, Tuesday night. Apparently he's back in Dallas. They're close. What in the hell is happening here?
I've always thought from the beginning the first thing he wanted was obviously a little bit extra money, but I think he really wanted to rest during the training camp. I don't think he really wanted to be in training camp, and so I thought that was his number one motivation, and now he's going to get the money and the rest, so he'll be there. He'll be there on Sunday. The thing that Derek described it best was that if he is there, I think it kind of takes both guys out of play. Whereas if he's out, then obviously Pollard is an incredible play and a super popular one. But, yeah, I think it takes both guys out because I think he signs. I think he's in there, and I think but he doesn't get a full workload, so kind of messes with everybody right there. But I think he'll be there. I think he wanted a little extra break there, the training camp for these guys. And, let's face it, Ezekiel hasn't exactly been the model of hard work since he got into the league. It's almost like he just kind of like, he's always tapping out of games in the middle of drives when you think a workhorse back should be in there. I don't know, but he'll be there. He's fine. So the thing I worry about Dallas more than anything is the health of Amari Cooper. If Amari is healthy and that foot injury was just a whole bunch of nothing, then Dallas will blow this team out. If Amari's not healthy, not only will they not blow this team out, but that's the deciding factor to me between whether they're a very deep playoff team or a team that's not even going to make the playoffs. That's Amari Cooper. So hopefully he's healthy, and if he's healthy, Dallas should roll in this game, I think. On the flip side, I do like Saquon, and I do like Evan Ingram. At the same time, I think this Dallas defense is going to be awesome this year.
Yep.
I think they're going to be very good. So it's like, I don't know, man. It's a battle of forces there. I just think Saquon and Ingram are a little bit too much volume this week not to play them. But generally this year, I don't want to play a bunch of players against Dallas. I think Dallas is going to have a very good defense with some great linebacking play. And but I think this week is an exception just because of the volume of those other guys. But I like Dallas here, obviously.
Yeah, I'm with you on the defense. I hate to say it. I have to give credit to Dallas, but the defense does look legit here. So I agree completely. If Zeke's back, I have no interest. If Pollard's in there, I'm not really worried about the ownership. I'm going to play him cash games. It's an easy lock there. The Giants, I don't know that I want to pay up for Saquon at 9K with some of the other options on the board. He would be the guy if I'm running it back. And I agree with you on Dak as well, Derek. I think he's interesting. Even a Michael Gallup, a little bit off the radar, only 4,300. So if we're worried about Cooper, maybe Gallup steps up and has a big game. All right, last game to wrap us up here, going a little long here in week one. But this is my favorite game of the week, guys. San Francisco and Tampa Bay, two offenses that should be very good, two defenses that should be very bad. I'm predicting that this thing goes way over the total. I want to stack this thing a million different ways. Chop, your thoughts here and your favorite plays out of this game, Niners and Tampa Bay.
Man, there's a lot of good plays in this game. Start with the road team, Frisco. The running backs, Tevin Coleman, I think I lean Tevin Coleman in this game. There's the injuries that happened here recently with that backfield. Makes it more of a two-man show, and I think Coleman's the guy who's going to get it done. I don't know why he gets kind of disrespected by everybody. There's nothing he did in Atlanta that made me think he wasn't a good fantasy back. So I like some Tevin Coleman. George Kittle is the second best tight end on the board this week behind Kelsey. You can make an argument that he's the best if you believe in the matchups being difficult in Jacksonville and good over here. I'll still favor Kelsey, but second best tight end on the board. Wide receivers, we're getting a lot of love for Pettis, but also saw Marquise Goodwin be a very, very viable fantasy threat when Garoppolo was healthy in that limited time that they spent together here in Frisco before he got hurt last year. So Pettis or Goodwin, take your pick. I think one of them steps up. Tampa Bay is going to be good this year. We know about Mike Evans. Everybody's talking about Chris Godwin. So maybe – and I'm looking at the ownership on the RG homepage right now, and I'm seeing 26% for Godwin, 11% for Evans.
Wow.
So with that being said, I know I'm going to pay a little extra for Evans, but, obviously if I'm going to buck the crowd, I want Mike Evans here because, oh, man, 8 times out of 10 he's probably going to outscore Godwin.
Yep.
And so I'm going to get a lot lower ownership. Don't want the running backs here. O.J. Howard is going to be boomer bust every week. I know ultimately the numbers at the end of the year are going to look good, but I think he's going to have a lot of weeks where he doesn't get there. So you're going to take that into your own hands. And how is Jameis Winston? How has he not opened up a seafood place called Famous Jameis's Crab Legs yet? Famous Jameis's Crab Legs. I just gave him $1 billion idea.
Look at that.
This guy's going to be good this year, I think. And I think it starts this week. So I like Jameis.
See you win the Millie Maker here in week one, Chop. You open you up a crab leg place down in Tampa Bay, and life is good. I like it. So
if I open up a crab leg place down in Tampa called Famous Jameis's Crab Legs, I guarantee you, he doesn't have the trademark on it yet. I can do what I want with that. I guarantee he comes knocking on my door begging me to get a piece of it too.
Oh yeah, that'd be a hit. So love the Goodwin call. I'm heavy on him this week. 4K, great price. You'll see him in one of my videos this week. I agree. On the Evans thing, don't forget we're going to get a lot of season-long players dabbling into DFS, whether they've been on the draft app or whatnot. They want to come in and try to win $1 million. And Godwin's probably been the talk of the off-season in the season-long world. So everybody going to go there. Love the Mike Evans call. I want to throw an off-the-radar name. And Chop, you'll know this name. Derek probably knows him by now, but Dare Ogunbowale, I can't even say his damn name. He played at my school at Wisconsin. Just 3K on DraftKings. I think it's a great dart throw. I know it's Jones. I know it's Barber, but this guy's had a great offseason, a fantastic pass catcher, and he may have already seized that role here. So at 3K, I'm willing to throw some darts at him. As far as San Francisco, the worry with Coleman, Chop, they came out today with their depth chart. Matt Breida sitting up top the depth chart there. So no idea, but I think I'd rather save 1,000 and go with Breida. I'm with you. I like Coleman. The guy's been a stud, but that depth chart was shocking. And the starting receivers, Ward, Pettis, and Goodwin in that initial depth chart. So, Derek, thoughts here? This is a fantasy bonanza here. I don't know who's not in play in this game.
Yeah, one of my favorite games as well. Probably will be avoiding the Niners running backs. I didn't see that Breida, was listed as the number one there. I do still think they'll split work, and for a little bit more, you can take Cook and Carson and Fournette and some of those guys that just have more established roles. So I'll probably lean toward them at running back, but I do like George Kittle quite a bit as part of a game stack. And then at the receiver, Dante Pettis, we've just heard negative things pretty much all offseason. Shanahan's trying to – I don't know if he's trying to motivate him or put him down or what, but they came out today saying he's going to be their number one and had a really good rookie season. He's got a nice mix of a floor and a ceiling, great matchup against Tampa Bay, obviously. And with all the negative talk, it looks like he's going to be 2 or 3% owned, which to me sounds pretty good. Then on the opposite side, we get Jameis Winston, who's not afraid to take shots downfield. Now we get Bruce Arians with his vertical passing attack. I love the spot for this offense, and it doesn't look like they're going to be able to run the ball. Maybe I'm not even going to try to say his name, but, maybe he's their answer to their running problems. But for now, I don't think they're going to get much out of Barber and Jones. So love the passing attack. Winston, you guys mentioned the big ownership discrepancy between Godwin and Evans. I think that's a great pivot in tournaments. But at the same time, I do like Godwin. He's going to get a lot of snaps out of the slot. Arians came out and said he's not going to come off the field at any point, unless he has to. So I think it's a great spot, and you could even triple stack him. I think a lot of people look to Winston and Godwin, Winston or Evans, and maybe just triple stack and bring it back with a couple of Niners players.
We'll call him Dare-O. Just make it easy. A little Inca Dare back in the day, if you know some hoops. So that'll wrap us up here for week one. So going forward, we'll add in some of our catchphrases and things that we've had along the way over the first 2 seasons. Hell, I got to remember some of those third and wrongs, and we'll bring some of those back. But today, I wanted to get you to football. The information, there's a lot of great games, a lot of targets, a lot of cheap guys. Going to be an awesome, awesome slate here in week one. Guys, any final thoughts? Again, we went long here, so don't want to go too much longer, but final thoughts here for week one. Chop, we'll go over to you.
We always look forward to week one. Like I said, nothing better than sitting down watching those kickoffs at noon with your lineups locked, and then that's just it. So this is like I was telling Big T earlier, man. You got to get into your groove. Week one is week one, just like everybody else. So we got to get back into our groove, and I'm sure we'll catch our groove, and these things will be a lot shorter in the future.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of great tournaments out there. Make sure you're spreading your wings a little bit. DraftKings, FanDuel, yes, but Yahoo giving away $1 million, no management fee. FantasyDraft giving away $1 million over there. So make sure you're checking out all these tournaments. And really game selection, I think, very, very important this week. But don't be afraid to go check out some of the other sites and support them. Competition, good for the industry. So get over to Yahoo, FantasyDraft. And don't forget Sharpside, free contest. Can't stress it enough. $5,000 to somebody just for picking games in an app. So get over there and check out that free $10,000 contest on Sharpside. Derek, final thoughts here for week one.
Yeah, groupthink is more prevalent week one than probably any other week during the regular season. We think we know these teams. We think we know how these games are going to play out, but we really don't. So don't be afraid to get away from the groupthink and just be a little contrarian, because that's certainly going to pay off in some of these large field tournaments.
Well said. Well said. Great to be back, boys. Can't wait for football right around the corner. We're almost there. But we'll be doing this each and every week, covering the main slate. And again, if you're looking for content on the Thursday game, some of the Monday games, get over to RotoGrinders and check that out. For my boys, HeadChopper, Notorious, I am Beermakersfan, Salute. Best of luck here in week one, guys. We'll see you next week.